Hello everyone, I've got Heather with me. Say hello.
Hi.
And we're gonna show what it takes to go and pack a bike into at least one of the SciCon bags. I've also brought along a couple of extra tools which I think are going to be very helpful. These are not required tools, but it can make your life a little bit easier, or if you don't have them, maybe a little bit harder. I've also got a few extra things, tips and tricks that I'll go and show along the way, and we'll go about this. All right, I've got the case out. What's going to be key is to have a couple of different components. What's going to also come with a lot of SciCon bags, and you may be able to find this at third-party or hardware stores, is to have a rear derailleur hanger that's going to protect the rear derailleur. And then what we'll also have is a lot of additional bubble wrap. As you can see, I've brought some electrical tape with me. Although and the reason why I do electrical tape is because it will come off from the bat, or it'll come off the bikes much easier, and it doesn't leave a residue. Scissors is going to be something you want to carry forward with you. If there's hard foam works really well as a protector, but again, it's not required. You could do just regular bubble wrap. There are also at least what comes special with the SciCons are that you can have aero bar bags. They can go on top of your aero bars to protect them a little bit there. There are also different top tubes, but again, you don't need to have any of these per se. You could just use bubble wrap as a replacement, but you have different types of tube protections. And what'll also be important is to make sure that you have a rear skewer. But you can also use the skewer that you have on a particular bike here. For Heather's bike, this is a rim brake. So this will go pretty smoothly with rim brakes. For disc brakes, it does require a little bit of extra protection. But again, disc brakes, it's not much difference between a disc brake versus a rim brake. And with that, we will go and start to do is, just as Heather has started doing, is we need to first dismount the wheels. So we're going to take the wheels off, and we're going to be putting the wheels onto the core frame here. And to do that, I'm going to help out with this. Feel free to place the wheel on the side. The key is going to be getting the rear wheel off. And so, Heather, if you don't mind, I will have you go and handle with your bike with getting the rear wheel off.
What if you don't speak until like 1:32?
All right. Okay. So now, how the frame will go on top is we'll do the front fork first, and then slowly, and this moves forward and backwards, so this will move forward, and eventually we want to have the rear mech go and mount to the rear here. Ideally, we'll want to have the chain go on top here, as that's a chain protector. And it does require a little bit of fidgeting to get around with that. Do we have that on the front there? Okay. So now, the next thing I'll do is to protect the rear derailleur. We've got to go and have this aboard. Yeah.
Okay.
For those that have DI2s, so if you have electronic components, go and make sure that the electrical components are disconnected from any attachments that you have. But for here, it's all cabled, so that should be okay. We'll just do, and what I have with the extra foam is to go and protect, like double protect around the rear derailleur, because that's the area where you're going to have the most potential risk for damage, and it should be tight. So Now, if we can have your front skewer to go and attach to the front there. And in the meantime, as we go through this, I'm going to put some top tube protection.
And should this be tight too?
Yes. It doesn't need to be like super tight, but tight enough such that it's such that the frame will, if it's going to wobble, the entirety of the frame wobbles rather than just the individual component. Okay, so then the next part is with these straps here. What comes along with this bike are these paddle bars. So I think we'll probably want to dismount the light there just in case. And then what I like here, got these to protect the handlebars. But if you can attach this towards the bar here, the idea is that when it comes to the buckle, this will go around on the top here. Yeah. And then I'm not sure if the saddlebag here will fit. It may fit both. I'm gonna try both. It does.
Okay.
Perfect. So that's good. Next part. This is all the easy stuff. Then we get to the art of how we go and make sure that we protect everything on the back. Yeah.
Seeing it in the light, I see so much of like how much I need to clean off some like the front here like more.
That's okay. That's, hey, at least for training, right? You don't have to worry as much. Here's where ideally you want to have clips that are below the handlebar, not on top. So if you could do it on top, but that might add a little bit of unnecessary stress to the frame. And so I typically like to go from below. That way it's a little bit easier. And again, the idea and the reason why these straps are involved is so that we want the frame to go together as one, as opposed to trying to do it a little bit more. I think these cages should be fine. Yeah, I think they should be fine. So as Heather goes and does the next one, what I'm going to show here is how much additional protection that we want to have with the rear derailleur, because this is an area where it will have the most exposure or the most potential for damage, and if it goes around. Then the next place is we're going to need to make sure that we take care of the front crank. But for right now, I typically have a lot of additional foam, and sometimes it does require a little bit of wedging through. Bike components are more resilient than they look when it comes to transport. I know I've had my Argon 18 E119, and that thing has been absolutely beat up. But for the cases here, I think we're going to be pretty good. I wouldn't worry too much about the chain kind of flying around here. There are typically additional tubes that I have to kind of go and protect around. And you don't have to use electrical tape to keep these. If you find like round hard styrofoam, that will help. Of course, I get super technical when I talk about stuff like this. I usually, you can do is keep your pedals clipped in if you choose to, but you already mounted off your pedals. But I usually have additional wrapping around, so it's not a requirement. Hey, it's not a requirement for you to have to unclip your pedal or dismount your pedals. It is better to dismount the pedals than to not, but again, you don't have to do that per se.
I have a suspicion that if for any reason I have to have my pedals.
Yep. No, and that's the smarter way to go about it. And then let's see what else. So then really the remaining of it is just now we're going to protect critical components. And so I'm going to put extra padding here on the rear derailleur, because the rear derailleur is where you're going to have the most risk of damage, and that's the most sensitive component as well. We will do a little bit of electrical tape to make sure that we protect around this area. I tend to like to keep it a little bit loose as opposed to trying to electrical tape everything here, because bike handlers, this area is just going to receive a lot of movement, and so it's better to have something loose that can kind of protect around it rather than trying to fix something in place. But that's just from my personal experience. For bigger bikes, and sometimes the bikes get a little bit big, especially for like size 60 frames, they will probably want to have a little bit more electrical tape just to make sure that the area is protected and clear. So with that, that's really the main part. Now the next part, I'm not going to film the rest of it because it's just going to be mainly protecting around bike cages. We're going to do an initial test here first to see if the bike is going to fully close or not, because this is where I brought the extra tools just in case. This part should close just fine. Yep, it does. So this is just an initial look, because as what Heather's, where Heather is taking a look here, sometimes some bikes, the aero bars doesn't always go through full length there, but your bike is fine. My bike, I actually have to dismount and untighten them and reverse the aero bars down in order for me to fit it through. Not all bikes are like that. Some bikes are more integrated and they're more flat. Some bikes are higher and you have to make adjustments there. So those are just a few of the checkpoints here I wanted to go through, but now this actually fits really well. So now all we need to do is just now do the bubble wrap and protecting the bikes, and then we will get to the wheels next after we finish protecting the bike frame. All right, now we are going to start packing the wheels. Now that we've got most places protected, I would say we're probably going to add a little bit of extra bubble wrap on the top here, but to show for at least this part of the video, the first thing that we want to do before packing in the wheels, you're not required to have extra wheel bags, but there's good amount of protection and padding with at least with the SciCon. But for those that are a little bit more worrisome, I would say go and have the extra bag. Like for my Argon Zip 808 wheels, I'm going to certainly have to protect them extra. The first step you'll want to do is you want to completely deflate the tires. First reason is it decreases the weight, and the second is that it allows more flexibility with your tire. If the case something goes wrong, right, then you're at least you're able to take off the tire much easier, or at least it's going to be a little bit quicker. So with that, I think for Heather's case, we'll just simply go and put the wheels in. And if you've got extra skewers, you'll want to make sure that you go and take those off. We've already used the one for the front wheel that is on the frame. And fortunately, with a lot of good bike or good wheel cases, you can always store the extra skewers and have them protected right in here. Yeah. And with this case particularly, you can go and rather than just shoving a wheel inside, the Velcro here can help to just keep the wheels in place. So if you want to do that for the other wheel there, it doesn't matter which way you go, it will still protect the rear cassette, so that should be good. Now when it comes to putting the bike in, if you do plan to bring a bike pump with you, which I have done historically, you want to put the bike pump on the opposite side of the front cassette. So the bike pump is going to be on this side here, because that way it won't bump into the front cassette. And as a result, also you'll also want your rear wheel also on this side as well, because it gives a little bit of space.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Traveling with a bike pump, is that gonna be like too excessive, or is it more like the small hand pump you have?
So I've brought my full bike pump onto the side. It fits in just fine. It is a little bit of a weight penalty though, so do also consider about how much your bike pump weighs. If you got a light bike pump, then that will be the best. Like mine's pretty light, so it's only like 4 pounds, so that works pretty well. But for others, they may have the metallic ones, and those are of course significantly more weight. And yeah, it will zip through. Wow. And there you go, that's extra padding. That's what I really like about this. I will say though, I will need these. The bike bag may not need to come right away, but before I travel on the 4th of May,
yep,
I need to definitely get those wheel cases back.
I'll be back on the 30th, yes. So I'll be able to dismantle and return.
Yeah. So then really the last steps here is we'll probably add a little bit of additional bubble wrap around here just to make sure that we don't have any breaks, although these are generally really durable. And then as we go along, we'll want to tighten the central straps here. Okay. And then this will pull upright, and then we'll attach the handles. So why don't we go and do this first? Okay. While we're at it.
Stuff around it? Or?
Just stuff around it. There's really no, because what'll happen is TSA is going to try to unwrap a lot of it anyways, unfortunately. So they will try, but half the time they just, wrap it around. And so if we want to tape through that a little bit as well. Okay. And then once we get that, I'll start filming again here. Okay, so now comes our next fit check. And this is where it does require a little bit of additional pulling on both sides. Yep, thank you for taking off that. This may get a little tight on this side here, but that's okay.
Okay, just make it.
It should just make it, yep. Otherwise we'd have to, nope, yep. And it did it. Yay! There we go. And
TSA friendly lock.
Yep, TSA friendly locks there. I typically don't have them on because they usually just take them. Yeah. And they just steal them. Right. I don't know why. But there we go. So these are the hooks. So to show a little bit, so this allows you to, so if you want to go and shoulder carry, you can shoulder carry.
Oh boy.
But I recommend you just tug. Yeah. And it rolls really easily. Yeah. So there you go. So and this should be about 40 some pounds the way how it is loaded here. If you add a few extra things, you could go and
I know that they're going to be bringing bike pumps and other things.
Yep. So there we go. That's how we go and pack into a SciCon Aero Comfort Tri 3.0 bag. And the last tip for those that want to have flight tags, so this is where you go and have the airline attendants go and attach your flight tag with there. So that's what this is for. I personally have lots of these fragile tags. Make sure to also go and ask for that. But the way how it is, expect some abuse to come through, but right now you should be good to go. And there you go. That's a demonstration of how you go and pack a bike, at least in a SciCon bag. Fairly simple, straightforward. Heather's bag is easier. My bag is a little bit more complicated and requires more work. One additional thing, and what I will do on the front side is to go and have this. So this bag here is where you can store your helmet. You could store your shoes in here. You could also place your shoes inside. And typically where it goes is right in between that front fork, and it'll fit in kind of like that in the inside. Yep. So you can mount a few additional things. So your helmet, I think, could go inside without issues. Typically the helmets, because there's so much space and padding, there's really not much of a risk in terms of getting damage to it. So that's one other thing I want to add before I go and close off here. And so there you go.
I think my plan was like I was gonna have my helmet, my shoes, and my pedals all in my carry-on with me.
You could do that too. Either way, I tend to be a little bit more riskier when it comes to just packing all the tri-gear in there. But there you go. That's a demonstration of how to pack this bag. And of course, if you like this video, go and of course hit that subscribe for me on the bottom right hand or bottom left hand side of the corner. Also hit the bell notification to receive more videos, and of course leave a comment down below. Love to hear what your thoughts are as it pertains to packing and really just traveling in general. And Heather, if you want to say hi to the camera.
Hi.
And of course, until the next one, Yoshi out.